Unhappy campers, Terry McLaurin, TJ Watt, couple of guys that have contract issues. They're not pleased with their teams. Would you make a call on either of those two players? I know I would on Terry McLaurin. That would be the first one I'd make.
Yeah, I would be interested in both, but McLaurin would be the one that would have priority because of the position. They need receivers. I would also throw Trey Hendrickson into this. If you're going to be interested in TJ Watt, Hendrickson's in a similar spot.
That was a big offseason headline.
Yeah, they're both 30, so it's not like, one of them is much younger. But there's all three of these guys would be, the sticking point is money. So you're going to have to give up resources and a contract. You have to give up probably draft capital to get them, but McLaurin would be the one that would stand out.
Would you like an update on the available cap space in the NFL? The Patriots have more of it than anybody still.
Oh no, I didn't say it. I didn't say it's going to require cap space. Did you hear me say that?
Good one, Paul.
I said it would require money, and I said it would require resources in terms of draft capital.
Good one. I love that.
Cap space, please.
Well, I just want to point it out
for those children,
for those who like to talk about it. I never enjoy talking about it. I think it's a complete waste of time for the reasons you said. But some people like to throw it out there, so I like to proactively say, oh, is that right? Well, they have the most amount of cap space going. Because whenever the team makes the claim that they're spending, they claim, look at our cap space. Right. Well, now I'm going to do what you do in reverse. Look at all your cap space. You must not be spending any money. You must be cheaping out with all that cap space. Big offseason. You've got more of it than any other team in the league. See how that works? Funny how that works. Sorry, Paul. I don't mean to get you in trouble here today.
No, you're doing your best.
I don't want to do that. You didn't say that. That was me.
No, I am not really haven't been for 20 plus years a big believer in the cap. I mean, when I first started doing this, the cap was quite restrictive. It was much smaller. You had to really work to figure out ways to get contracts, bigger money contracts within the deals. Now, the numbers have grown so much due to all the revenue that the league makes, and the pie is so much bigger, and teams have gotten so much wiser in terms of how to sort of carry and prorate these numbers out over years, and there's so many different mechanisms with signing bonuses, roster bonuses, void years. There's so many different ways to get around the salary cap beyond the fact that it's so much larger. It's really a non-issue.
I can tell you that they are, according to Over the Cap, on their cash spending, 16th in the league, middle of the pack. They're not exactly spending a boatload. They're not exactly maxing out. So you could talk about, look at the big money deals they signed this offseason. They've got the resources to go sign more players if they're able to trade for them.
So I want to be fair.
Long term. I want them to go after McLaurin and throw him a bag. I would want them to go after Watt and pay him. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm in on all of it.
And I'll be fair, if they do something like that, if they identify one of these guys, that's why we save those resources, because when things happen that weren't necessarily anticipated, we want to be in a position where we can strike. So I would agree with you. If they're able to make a move like that, that's huge.
I would tell you that as much as I value the receiver and would put McLaurin first, I don't think that a true bona fide pass rusher off the edge is that for, like, it's right behind receiver on the list for me. You've got corners, you don't have the receiver talent, you could add it, and you don't really have a guy who can be a wrecker. They don't have that guy.
It's easier to find a receiver deep in the draft than it is a talent like him, and that's the thing. I think
not for this team, though.
That's true. But in the division they play in, I think it's more important to have pass rush because you need it.
They need both.
Well, they definitely
need both.
They need it. I mean, they finished dead last in pass rush last year. They absolutely need help there. But I think until they find a way to be able to move the ball and put points on the board, they're going to be limited as a team. And if they could get McLaurin, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they got TJ Watt. That stinks. They don't really need that. Of course they do. He's an elite player. I would take either one of them. But McLaurin would be my priority.
But why invest in a receiver before the offensive line? That's my whole situation.
Because I don't think there's any one set way that you have to build it.
That's fair.
I think if you had an opportunity to get Trent Williams, say, like a few years ago,
Yeah.
I would have done that too, and said we got to build our offensive line. But this is the opportunity that's presenting itself now. I don't have a problem, with order of operations. I know a lot of people do, and what you're saying, a lot of people believe in, Kendra. You have to build up front. That's sort of what Detroit did. They kind of got
That's
the
what the
pieces in
Eagles
place
did.
up front. I think the Eagles have everything,
They built through the trenches.
but they have elite wide receivers too that they used first-round picks to get.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown, they traded a first-round pick for, and Devontae Smith, they used a first-round pick on. The offense isn't the same with just the offensive line.
Where were we? Trades. Greg Bedard saying it's a possibility that the Patriots could still move one of their receivers. If you were another team, Paul, which of the Patriots receivers would you put at the top of your wish list to trade for?
So these, I assume, are you just saying any of them?
Any of them.
Kyle Williams. But
I think we should take him out since he's
yeah, that's why
brand
I
new
asked
and he
you
just got
any of them.
drafted.
So the ones that are, we're talking about Kendrick Bourne, Keyshawn Boutte, Demario Douglas.
anybody who's played an NFL
Yeah.
game at this point.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you probably Keyshawn Boutte. I think he has the best combination of upside and youth that might be able to help someone. I don't think there's a lot of value in any. I think we played the clip with Phil Perry a while ago about the depth, and I would largely agree with the way that Phil described that. I think they have a lot of good complementary pieces. I don't think any of them is all that good. But I was surprised during the draft season, Boutte's name was on one of those national roundups of veterans that could be available. I don't think Boutte is a game breaker by any stretch. But this is a guy who came in as a sixth-round pick as a rookie, did very little, right? Last year, admittedly on a horrible offense, he took advantage of some opportunities and made some plays. Looked like he developed some kind of connection with Drake May, especially on deep balls. Wasn't a great season, but it was a representative season. Why not see if there's something more there? I think he had a strong spring. I think he might be able to draw some interest from somebody. Now, we're talking interest. We're talking about seventh-round pick.
Okay.
You're not getting anything for
All right,
him.
maybe the sixth that you drafted him with.
Yeah, you might.
Right?
Maybe a pick swap.
Sure.
We'll give you. We'll give you Keyshawn Boutte in a seventh for a sixth. One of those deals. But you're not getting anything for any of those guys.
That's why I wonder what the point of even discussing this is, because I think if Keyshawn Boutte's the most attractive piece, it's like, well, what does that work?
I think most people would probably say Kendrick Bourne is the most
I was
attractive
going to say
piece.
Douglas.
I think Douglas is limited with his size. I think he can be productive. I am anxious to see what Josh McDaniels does with the slot guy.
I was going to say his big issue for me is drops, and it's one of those things where I think it's probably all in his head, and you can teach a guy how to get over that. You can't teach someone how to be that athletic.
So I agree with things you guys are saying. I was borderline stunned to hear one of the names that Bedard threw out in talking about possible trades of a Pats receiver. Here it is.
Who they ultimately move, I'm not really sure. But I'm not ruling that out on Douglas. I'm not ruling that out on Bourne. I'm not ruling that out on Polk, certainly. I think that Polk could be a guy where they're just like, he was drafted in the previous regime. I think almost that whole draft class could be in the same category, no matter the position, whether it's Caden Wallace or Layden Robinson.
Polk? Someone might want him? That thrills me that someone might give up anything for Polk at this stage of the game.
Yeah, again, you're not getting much. You're getting a day 3 pick.
Cool. Let's do it.
But
who wants him?
He plays like one, so.
Yeah.
And he didn't do much in the spring. I think he's coming off a shoulder injury, so he didn't do anything.
How did he do that?
He got hurt late last year.
I know.
He was
it's
on
it's
IR.
not okay now. It's not fixed.
Well, he had surgery.
Yeah, I know, but that was like 7 months ago now.
I don't know when he had the surgery, Beetle. Why
Well,
you
how
gotta
did
be
he
like
hurt
that?
it?
That's the other question.
Doesn't even play.
Wow.
Barely plays, hurt his shoulder, can't play to begin with. Bye.
Was he carrying the team
So
on his shoulders?
my question about this is when Greg says that, and I think he's not just throwing crap against the wall there. That's someone speaking to a belief that they could get something back, period, and not have to cut him. which I think is a win.
Yeah. I just would caution as to what something back is.
I think
6th, 7th, any of that. I'd take it. Great.
Tops.
I think that'd be a win.
I think the thing with Polk is that there's still at least somewhat of a question mark surrounding him, not to bring it back to the Jags, but it reminds me of the thing with Laviska Shenault a couple of years ago. You didn't know what he could be. You knew what he was in college. You knew the ceiling. You knew the floor. The Jaguars traded him for a 6th-round pick to the Panthers. It was just kind of, somebody's dumb enough to take this. Let's do it because we know what he is.
Yeah. We know what he is.
So that would
Not
be,
very good.
No, but like, okay. I mean, if that makes you feel better, that
I feel
to
great.
me, that's a complete bust of a 2nd-round pick.
I already know it's a bust. I've already declared that a bust of a pick. They whiffed. They got it wrong. Dead wrong. And
rather than take a 6th-round pick for him,
I hate the teams that can't figure out in a year's time when the guy comes to work every day in your building that he can't play and you just move on and you admit the mistake and you rip that Band-Aid off. I can't stand it when teams keep a guy around simply because we drafted him high. We couldn't have possibly been wrong.
Vrabel didn't. He didn't draft him.
Yeah,
in
but
fairness, this is a group of people, so you're putting it all on Elliott Wolf.
yes,
Okay.
I am.
Have you heard the show?
And I hope that Vrabel is strong enough to say, yeah, Elliot, this pick sucked. You screwed it up. He's out of here. I'm not taking up a roster spot on this team for a guy who can't play.
If I can get something, then I would do it. Because I would probably side with you and think I've seen enough. I don't think that there's a lot there.
I don't think he's making the team.
But
So
I think that it would be better to give him an opportunity to see if he can sort of fresh start. There was a lot of things that happened.
Jacksonville.
No, I mean
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Cleveland.
I mean here. Let him go through camp and let him see if he can be part of this offense. Maybe this offense is more conducive to his skill set. Who
I'd much
knows?
rather keep Booty on this team
Trade him
in one of
before
those
anybody
receiver
can see
spots
him.
than Bulk. That's how I feel. Like if you go through camp and you give him the chance and he doesn't do anything,
Trade him
and then
now.
you're calling other teams. They're like, you're going to cut him in 2 weeks. We'll wait.
You want to come pick up my garbage
We'll
for
add
me
him.
so I don't have to take it to the curb?
We'll add him to our practice squad in 2 weeks. We don't need to trade
But I'm just saying,
for him.
there's so little value in that trade. I think there's better upside possibilities of him showing that. Oh, okay, he's a better player in year 2.
Yeah, I don't think he's worth the reps.
Okay.
I'd rather roll with all those other guys that they have, with Bourne and Booty and Williams and Diggs and Pop Douglas. Those are 5 names right there.
Yeah, I don't think that he's a lock for the roster. I'm not
Polk
saying
from
that.
McLaurin, who says no.
Do it. It's a great deal. Great deal.
Those are the kinds of calls we get on Patriots.com.
That's why I said it.
I am not necessarily telling you I'm confident that Polk, it was just a bad rookie year. I am not in love with the skill set. I don't think there was explosiveness there. I think he showed some strong hands in training camp that didn't translate to the regular season. But I do feel like there's a possibility that it just kind of spiraled on him. And once it got going bad, he mentally didn't handle it well, and maybe he'd be a little bit more prepared for it this time around with a different coaching staff.
But who's had that bad of a rookie season and come back like that?
No one.
That's my. Yeah.
What is it? There's a number of yards for a rookie receiver. Is it like 545? It's like 500 to change. I think there's like a rookie number that's basically the baseline. If you didn't hit that number as a rookie, generally you're not. He didn't even come close to it. So yeah, there's not very many guys that's been that bad. You'd have to go back a long way. Like guys like Eric Mold. Remember Eric Mold's Beetle in Buffalo?
He's a good player.
He did nothing for 2 years. Absolutely nothing. And then he turned out to be a stud. I can't really think of many other guys like that, though.
Eric Molds. I remember Zoe telling the story about Ty Law in the Friday meeting. Like you go through your assignments and
Just
everyone
give
has
me
to
him.
declare, what they're doing, what the important points are in the game. And he said, Ty Law got up and said, yeah, I'm covering Eric Molds this weekend because I'm Ty effing Law. And that was it. And then he sat back down.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess he knows what he's doing.